Now, so welcome everyone to this webinar, the first in a series of webinars that we are organizing. Today's webinar is about Oracle Apex Universal Theme. What we are going to do with my colleague Peter is to present the way we use a universal theme. I won't say that this is the correct way, but I think it's taking using as much as possible the functionalities that the universal theme is offering. It's a good idea in the long term, so you will have less problems while refreshing your theme or actually making the application looks in a standard way. So not hard coding one style here and there with different parameters. So taking advantage of all the functionalities the universal theme offers you is always a good idea. And I think it's something that people are not fully aware of. So that's why we organized this webinar. Okay, so because I don't mention, I will mention now. So I'm Lucas Hirschegger, I'm the Apex team lead of Rittman Mead, and with me is Petar, one of our consultants from the team. So the agenda for today is basically who we are in a nutshell. Then I will cover very quickly the universal theme, and then we will jump into the universal theme features that we find most useful while working, in our day-to-day. Those are the responsive classes, the visibility classes, some of the most common CSS helpers will be presented by Peter, and the colors, and a quick touch to the JavaScript API that is available, and finally some of the CSS variables. The CSS variables. Okay, so to start with, who we are Rittman Mead. We are a globally recognized Oracle data and analytics consultancy company. We are based in the UK. We're founded in 2007, and we operate around the globe. So we have clients all over the place, with more than 50 consultants. I joined the company 3 years ago when the Apex team was formed, and we are an Oracle partner. So if we jump into the universal theme, so probably mostly everyone knows what the universal theme is. The universal theme is a user interface framework for the Oracle Apex, or for your Oracle Apex applications. It provides you a consistent user experience across all devices, and it comes with pre-built, fully customizable components. So it was introduced in Apex 5.0. That was a time when I started dealing with Apex. So it's a nice thing for me to happen. I have the pleasure not to deal with migration from theme 42 for the blue theme. I don't remember what it was there. It was ugly times when you have these themes that you need to change, the blue one, the red one. I remember that. So I have to say that I like very much the universal theme, so I try to go deep into it as much as possible. So as you might or might not know, this is the URL of the universal theme sample application. Or apexoracle.com/ut will always drive you to the latest version of the documentation and the sample application, which is in this case one and the same. So if you go to that, you might already see this application. You can either navigate it from this URL, or you can always deploy that application into your environment and play with it. Check the components, check the configurations, and learn from that. So to finish this section, what I will just like to say is try to avoid custom CSS as much as possible. So as I mentioned at the beginning, avoiding hard coding stuff in your CSS will help you in the long term, in the long run, to make your theme refresh and maintain your application easy. Right? It will be easier for you and for your company or for your clients. So custom CSS it might be nice, it might be tempting to do it because it's really quick and dirty, but yeah, in the long term, it brings you problems to your projects. Okay. Oh, I think I forgot to mention that if you have any question, you have a Q&A panel at the bottom, so feel free to ask any question anytime you want. So let's start with the fun thing. So one of the features that I like most are the responsive classes. So basically, something I know from my Bootstrap times, what you can define the number of grids, the number of columns that one element will use to different screen sizes. And that's the case in Apex as well. So it's exactly the same as Bootstrap might work for those who knows Bootstrap. The thing is that natively you can just define one column size. So if you put 2 regions or 3 in this case, the default one will be that this region will be 4, 4, and 4. So that's automatically done by Apex, right? What you cannot define is how that might look when you have a smaller screen. And here's the trick. So if so because I have, this is the native way of doing it. You put 3 sections, one next to another, one next, not a new row, but a new column, and they're automatically calculated to 4 because we have, as you know, 12 columns in the grid. So when you have a smaller screen, like a tablet, like for this, the charts become less and less useful, right? If you have a really small screen like this, the charts are of no use. So there is a solution for that, and the solution is defining the classes by yourself. So you have an attribute or a property. In the attribute pane, you have the property column CSS classes, and you can define different classes for your regions. So for each device size, like XXS screen, XS screens, small screens, medium screen, or larger screens, you can define the amount of columns that element will use in the screen. So if I enable those classes in these 3 charts as before, as you can see that when you collapse, you jump from a large screen into a medium screen, and the charts, rather than using 4 columns, they will use 6 columns. That means that they are still useful in smaller screens. And again, if you have even a smaller screen, then you will use 12 columns rather than 6 columns. So that means that you can keep your elements useful across different size screens. And yeah, I think this is very cool. I like this functionality. I found this not long ago. It was funny because before that I was just reinventing the wheel and using JavaScript to accommodate the classes to the right size screen, which was not very smart. But anyway, so the next topics that I would like to present are the visibility classes. Again, very useful one, and I will quickly demonstrate what they are for. So this is a classic page with a classic report. The classic report is very clean, very nice, no much to say. The problem is that if you have a smaller screen, the smaller it is, the more useless it is. So for instance, in this case, if you have a mobile phone and a classic report, you might encounter that you need to do this horizontal scrolling, and it's not very nice. It's not a nice experience for the users. So what we usually do is, rather than using classic report, we use mobile-friendly report like the reflow report. The problem is with the reflow report is that it's not as rich in functionalities as the classic report. So you cannot sort by column, or you cannot download prints. You cannot break down by first, second, or third column. So there are some functionality missing that you might like or use or need or not. But in that case, one additional thing, and again, I will enable the responsive mode, what you can do is use the hidden visibility classes. So basically, you are defining when this element will be hidden in which screen size. So for instance, this classic report from smaller screen down, that will be hidden, so it will not appear in the screen. And I will quickly demonstrate how that works. So if I am in a small screen like this one, in the medium, I will present a reflow report, which we know is full mobile friendly. So as smaller it becomes, it changed from this tablet layout into this list layout, which is still useful in mobiles. But as you can see, the classic report, the one that was not very responsive, is hidden from the, is not in view, right? So as you can see, using these visibility classes, we can hide and show different content in the page. So again, very useful if you need to be responsive in your applications. Okay, so now I will hand the word to Peter that will explain the CSS helpers. So I guess you might want to pick up the screen.
Yeah. Sharing my screen.
Okay.
So thank you, Lucas. My name is Petar. Thank you for joining. And I'm going to talk about content modifier. So how you can use predefined classes to modify your components. So we'll go to width, height, padding, margin, and two that are not documented, that's rounded and opacity. And for the end of that section, we have example of how you can combine those classes. After that, we have the color classes, and in the end, we have the JavaScript API bonus. So yeah, I'll start with width. And as you can see here, we have the 4 elements on the page with the class name in the center. The first one is the width of 100%, which can be from 5 to 100, increment by 5. 100% means that it has the full width of assigned span. So in this case, span is 6, and that's the half of the screen. The next one is the width 300 pixels, which is fixed and cannot be smaller or wider, even on a small screen. So below that, we have the minimum width of 300 pixels. So which means that the minimum is 300 pixels, but on the larger screen can be larger, which is the case here. And at the end, we have the maximum width of 300 pixels, which can be smaller on the small screen, but not more than 300 pixels. So I'm going to show you how it works on responsive mode. So as you can see here, when I'm on the smaller screen, the percentage one is always the half of screen. The width 300 is always the same. The maximum width of 300 is changing. So it can be smaller, but not more than 300 pixels. And the minimum of 300 pixels is always 300 pixels and cannot be smaller. So as you can see here, now elements are splitted, and the width of 100% has a full width. When I'm on a very small screen, you can see that width of 300 is not very user friendly. So if you're developing the progressive application, the web progressive application, you need to use the right combination of these classes. So yeah, for the width, yeah, it's maybe important to mention that there are predefined classes from width 10 to 800, increment by 10. So if you need more than 800 pixels, so probably you need to create your own class for that. So the next one is height. Yeah, the same as for width. We have the height 400 pixels here and the max height of 400 pixels below. The same as for the width. Here you have like predefined classes for H10 to 800, increment by 10. Yeah, and I will quickly show you how it works in responsive mode. So when I'm on a very small screen, you will see that the first one, is not changing, but the maximum height of 400 can be smaller. Which is very nice, I would say. Yeah,
maybe just things to mention are with these maximum and minimum classes that usually or need to combine those with a percentage one. or with a, well, you can combine it as well with a static, with a hard-coded class, right? So as you know, the width classes are from 10 to 800. There's step by 10, so you have all the predefined classes from 10 to 800. And when you want to use, if you want to use a maximum or minimum one, then you need to combine that with a class that will actually define the height or width, right? Usually a percentage thing. If you say I want the maximum of 400, but you might want to combine that with 100% width, so that will use all the available space, but a maximum of 400.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Lucas. So the next one is padding. So we have the padding classes here, where we can define all sides of an element with a padding. And padding is basically the space inside of your element. So as you can see here, we have the padding small, medium, and large, and the none one, which is without the padding. So if you want, you can also define just one side of the padding, like the top left or right bottom, all are available. I'll go to margin. It's the same as for padding. We have the margin classes here, where we can define the margin for elements. There is a small, medium, and large one. You can also define the left and right one. So there's also the margin auto. So if you want to like center your component on the page, you can use the margin auto, and that will add a space on your right and left side, and the component will be in the center. And yeah, you can also add a margin, just like top and bottom or whatever you need. The next one that is not documented is rounded one. So by default in Apex, there is no rounded corners. But if you want to add some round to your elements, you can use a rounded small, which is just a little bit of rounded corners. And there's the middle one. Also the small, I just rounded a little bit, and then the large one, the rounded corners. And you have you can also round just one side of your corners, like top one or the one on the side. And you can use the rounded full, which is maybe the most useful here. So you can use these classes to get a circle of your component. And yeah, that's about the rounded classes. The next one is opacity. This one is also not documented, and but I would say it's useful if you want to make your components transparent. So it's in percentage from 0 to 100, increment by 5. So as you can see here, 100 is without opacity, and in the end we have a 5, which is transparent one. So at the end of this section, we have an example. As you can see, we have an icon here and text below that. That's the result of the HTML below. There is one div with the classes of, so we have a width of 100%. Text is in center with padding large. And there is one span with the icon classes here. That icon has a color, has a first base color in the theme, and there is a opacity of 800%, which is just a little bit. Below that, we have a H2 tag with text upper classes, so all the text inside this tag will be in uppercase. With a fixed font and bold text. So as you can see, this text here is in uppercase and the bold. So this is the way how you can combine the classes just to separate them with space. In the Apex, in the Apex components, you can add that under appears, and there's a CSS classes that you can add multiple of them, just separated by space. Yeah, that's it about the CSS helper.
Yeah. So maybe I can just a bit of, I mean, the idea of this page is to demonstrate, and this is a real example that I have used many times. So sometimes you just need, so I use this example for any thank you page. So I have a wizard that at the end of the wizard, when you are submitting something, you want to say thank you to the person. Oh, okay, you're done, great, here's your reference number. So creating a region like that is very quick and easy with default classes, with the native classes. So the native functionality that Apex has to offer you. And this is a nice example, right? So you just pick up an icon from the icon page in the universal theme, make it large, times 5. You can change the color if you want. The opacity was something we recently discovered, so it might be useful for you or not if you want to put a background, a transparent background, which might be more sexy. But again, creating nice regions with native classes is really simple and easy. So this is what we would like to tell you today. So don't try to reinvent the wheel when you don't need to. So in the majority of the applications, you just need a simple region, a simple area, which is really clear. And this is a nice example of it.
Yeah, okay. And you don't need to worry about universal theme upgrades. So you're using the predefined classes, so it's fine. Yeah.
So if tomorrow the Apex theme, decided that the large icon would be different, or the opacity will be different, or the bold will be different, whatever it will be different, so it will automatically apply to you. So if for instance tomorrow the padding large is 30 pixels rather than 12 or 16, which is the default today, I don't know, that will change all over the place. So the look and feel of your application will be will be the same as it's in the native theme.
Yeah.
So as we mentioned at the beginning, the point of it is just try to make it as simple as possible to upgrade.
Yeah. So the next section is colors. So by default, in Apex we have theme colors. Yeah, here in the middle are first 15 colors, which is the base color of the theme. And then left, we have left of that the first color is another 15 colors from 16 to 30, which is the light version of first 15 of the base colors. So yeah, in the right column, we have next 15, which is from 31 to 45, which is the dark version of base color. So yeah, one sec. So you can change that in the theme roller under palette. And if you have these colors across your application, and maybe your client comes and want to change the color schema, or you want to change that, you can quickly change these colors here, and that will be applied to your component. As you can see, when I change it here, it's changing all over the place, and light color and dark color are generated as well. Yeah, I think this is very useful. In the end, I have a JavaScript API. So by default in Apex, the text messages, the messages are not closed automatically. You need to close it by clicking on the X button. And if you don't like that, there is a JavaScript API where you can set auto dismiss to true, which means that your message will be closed in 3 seconds by default. If you want to change that, there is a duration. I put that in 2 seconds just for the demo, but if you want to set that to 10 seconds to give more time for users to read it. You can change that. Yeah, and here's one example of that. So as you can see, after 2 seconds, it's closed. And yeah, you can add this to your page when you want to use that. If you want to use this across your application, you can add that to page 0. It's also called the global page. And that will apply to all your pages in Apex. Yeah, that's it. So, Lucas.
Okay, yeah, just trying to find my screen back. I think this is the one. Yeah, this is the one.
Yeah, cool.
So the next and last topic are CSS variables. So this is a feature that I recently discovered. Again, there is a lot of features there. So this is the bunch of the ones that we usually use or that we find more useful. But so I like this especially because it allows you to define variables or to use the variables that are already available in CSS, so you don't need to hard code the actual value. So a nice example of that is this application, for instance, the footer of it, right? So the footer, by default, you cannot change the footer, at least that I am aware of. You cannot change the footer in theme roller, right? So if you want to do that, you are forced into hard coding something in CSS, right? But rather than hard coding the actual blue that I defined for the body, what you can do is define the variable that hold that color, right? So when you define something in theme roller using dynamic CSS, that will compile into something, and that compiled file will hold the color that you actually define in your theme roller configuration thing. So using the background, using the CSS variable in that background color will allow you to reuse the color from the theme roller without hard coding the values, which again, in the long term, if you decide then to rebrand your application, that might be easier because you have less places to change. So as you might found in this link, there is a limited list of variables that Apex document for you. So this is this is from the universal theme application, the sample application. So you have the list of variables that you can use. And I recently discovered that you have a full list as well in the image folder. So if you are a super user or kind of want to discover more about yourself, then you have a list of all the variables that are using all across the applications. So I think this is really nice. So again, don't hard code, or no need for hard coding the values. You can use variables for that. So just to conclude, and again, as I say at the beginning, I aim to avoid custom CSS as much as possible. Sometimes to an extreme. So it's not always nice. You might sometimes be easier to just hard code and style and just put important at the end, and that will work as well. But yeah, in the long term, we try to avoid CSS and especially styles as much as possible. So if you cannot avoid that, then I would suggest you try to use variables in your CSS definitions. So again, in the long term, it will be cheaper for you if you do it the right way. So that's for today, everything we have prepared. So I will really thank you for listening and being here. And we will jump into the question section if you want. So maybe so maybe if just because there are more people asking the same, if we can share the source code of this application. Yeah, sure we can. And I was joking about I need to make sure that there are no CSS hard coded on it, otherwise it will be probably a fail. So I will need to review the app, even if I'm pretty sure it's well done. So yeah, we can share that. I will let you know how and where. I guess we have all your contacts, so we can send that with your email.
Also, you can download the Universal Theme application and install it to your workspace and check there. Yeah, I would say it's useful.
Yeah. Well, as in this case, I like the idea of having a PowerPoint presentation in Apex. It's not as flexible as PowerPoint, but it's not that difficult. I mean, it's really nice to have it in one place. So that's why we decided this way. Some of the questions, maybe we can start with the easy one. So if we can explain the effect of Apex version upgrades. I'm not sure I fully understand, but I will try to answer. So when you upgrade your Apex, your universal theme version will be upgraded, but because of backward compatibilities, your application will remain in the version of the universal theme that you have at the time you create the app. So assuming that you have created an application in 21 and you upgrade to 21.1 or 21.2 or whatever, that application, even though it's running in Apex 20 something, will remain in 20.1, which is the original thing, right? So if you want to use some new components that are, for instance, I don't know by heart, but if you want, for instance, to introduce the card report or any other templates that were not available in 21, you might need to refresh your theme. So usually when you refresh your theme, nothing happens to your application if your application is very simple. But if you have a lot of CSS hard-coded and you are overriding some classes that are natively defined in Apex, that means that your application will be broken, right? So
yeah,
maybe a quick example.
Yeah. Or
yeah. So for instance,
Apex change the class, and you're using.
Yeah.
Class, yeah.
Yeah. So for instance, this is a footer of my application. I have just overridden this I have overridden that with a variable. Yeah, and it's not the default. So it's not the default thing from the universal theme. So if tomorrow the Apex team decided to change the ID of the footer, for instance, like I will just make something there. The class. So if they change the class here, that means that the footer will be something else, right? Well, I broke everything because it was not the only one attached to that. But yeah, if they change the classes, or if they change something, that means that your CSS classes will not be in accordance to what is in the new theme. So it might break your look and feel, right? So that's why we try to. If you avoid hard coding CSS, that means that the transition to a new universal theme will be easier for you. Okay, so someone is asking if we can share the full list of CSS variables. Yeah, sure. That's in the application, so in the full list. So actually this is from the universal theme. So you can find that HTML file in your images folder. So when you download Apex, you will have the images folders, and in the theme 42, you will find the documentation for all the styles with the variables on it. And you can find it here as well. So that's
maybe we can share that in comments.
Sorry?
Maybe we can share that in comments.
Yeah. The link to the app. Sure. So there was another question regarding the Apex items, like how we prevent them from squishing too much and becoming unreadable. Well, that's a good question, and I don't have a lot of experience with that. I guess in forms you have usually three options. You either put the label on one side, or you put the label above, or you put the floating label. I usually use floating because it's a default and it's, for me, the nicer one. So at the very beginning, the floating labels were not around in the theme from Apex 5.0. I usually try to use the labels on top, because having the labels to the side and defining the span of the label was very painful.
Yeah, you mean the default one, right?
Yes. Yeah. So in Apex 5.0, you have usually the label of your item on the right or in the left, depending on your settings, but usually in the left of your item, right? and you need to define what was the span of that item and what was the span of the label itself. And it was by default, I don't remember anymore, it was 2 or 3. So you were forced into playing with that, but was very painful. So what I do now is just use floating labels and probably trying to short the label as much as possible. So if you need to put a lot of text in the label, then maybe you want to use inline help or the help icon, so you can shorten the labels. That's might be a solution for that. And
one question regarding the interactive grids to switch to report view to single row. Yeah, I saw that somewhere that it is possible, but yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah, well,
definitely not with the classes, I would say.
Yeah. So unfortunately, I am not a fan of the interactive grid, so I avoid using the grid as much as possible. So I don't really know how that, but I will copy paste the question. I mean, I will copy the question and I will come back to you via email if you are okay with that. So I will try to find a way around that. So I think that was it for in terms of questions. So in that case, I think we reached the end. So thank you for joining, and
yeah,
thank you for being here, and talk to you around. So
yeah, if you have any question, you can ask us on apex.world Slack channel. Yeah, we are active there.
Yep. Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Bye.
Bye.